Okay, we are live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, I have a very special guest, returning guest, Sean McCann of the Wake the Dead podcast. Check it out. Top 2% podcast in the world, does great work, has talked to and collaborated with a lot of people I'm familiar with. Loomis, Psyop Cinema, Hans Uter, you can see over there. And some of the shows that aren't, that I haven't done, a lot of subject matter. So I'll put a link to Wake the Dead podcast. Check it out. Give it a listen. Great host and guest. But today we're going to talk about someone who I wrote about. If you're watching this on Rockfin or YouTube, where I'm streaming this to, you'll see a picture of Arthur C. Clarke, but it's also from my book. So I did 5 pages, just a chapter on him as somebody who kind of knew the Crowley numerology, the 11, 77, 93, that whole bit. It's all there. But he has a very interesting background. He's clearly occulted. He's part of the moon landing hoax. He's part of 2001, probably the most influential science fiction movie ever made that, spawned like Star Wars, Alien, other great science fiction films. And he was in Sri Lanka, and we can talk more about that. There's some details. With this guy, I would put him in one of the illumined ones, super bright. He was responsible for geosynchronous orbit of satellites, like his ideas seeded into the real world as a real thinker. But he also had a dark side. We're going to talk about that. So Sean McCann, welcome back to the show.
Hello. I'm very glad to be here. Thanks for that. And thanks for the glowing review of Wake the Dead. I'm very proud of that. And the show is growing and getting better as we go along.
It's an accomplishment. I mean, if you're in the top 1%, that's the top 30,000. If there's 3 million podcasts, some are probably defunct.
Mm-hmm.
But that means you're in the top 60,000, 60, awesome. 70,000 in the world. That's pretty cool.
I'm trying, man. I'm climbing. I don't have any gimmicks, and I don't have any ads, and I don't but I try to have a good conversation. That's really what it's about, and try to learn something.
So you have ad-free listening. That's unusual, because that's right. Kind of how I sustain myself as ad.
Yeah, well, I go to work every day, but maybe someday I'll graduate to ads. But as of now, I'm just trying to be part of the conversation. I really want to be able to add my thoughts, and to be able to hear others' thoughts, and be able to expand my my view of the world and have my understanding of truth, and and I'll bring my listeners along with me. I think it's fun. It's great.
And this guy, Arthur C. Clarke, with tons of books, right? So he's written 2001 Space Odyssey, Rendezvous with Rama, which supposedly is in production hell. Like, they've tried to make a film with it. Fincher was associated with it. And some, what's the guy's name? The black actor, the older guy. But some very famous people are associated with it. They just haven't seemed to be able to make it. But there were also just these kind of incredible, obvious links, Prelude to Space, Link to Prometheus, and just clear Luciferian themes in his work and his life. He wasn't a Christian. And
no, he specified at his funeral that he didn't want anything religious at all. He's very atheist. He made that point. Yeah.
And he had those kind of famous 3 dictums, which is one, when a distinguished but elderly scientist states that something is possible, he's almost certainly right. When he states that something is impossible, he's very probably wrong. The second is, the only way of discovering the limits of possible is to venture a little way past them into the impossible. And the third is, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Which always makes me think of, I actually quoted that in my 9/11 book, like who knows what kind of stuff they deployed in 9/11.
Right, with the melted cars and all that.
Melted cars, the weird disappearance of the steel melted. It was a forge, like a furnace for days. I don't know if people
right. Oh yeah, for a long time, more than days. It was like molten steel in the basement for a long time. And then if you look at the
energy
video,
come from,
like there's like a spire that turns to dust on camera. It just blows away, and it's just like, what? Like there was no rubble. Like Judy Wood talks about that. It's really interesting.
Yeah. No, you can see it. Like, I just remember looking at the buildings, like I couldn't even comprehend it happening.
Right.
Like, where did they go? And you can just see the rubble. There's nothing left. There's like no, like, why isn't there like 4 or 5 stories left?
And
like,
what is left now is a monument that is a tesseract in the ground. Wow, it's like a black hole. It's a black square hole within another square, and the water is pouring down, and water is like emotions and like care and like, you know, like it's just being sucked down into this black square cube. Like it's so satanic, dude. It's so very dark. Evil.
And even the placard is like, so to the 3,000 people whose lives were sacrificed.
Yeah, straight up. They even say
September 11th, like in 11 and sacrifice in the same phrase.
Right.
Like people can just Google the placard at 9/11 and just be like, why did they use the word sacrifice, man?
Right.
What is
right? And that was not a willing sacrifice. I mean, at least in the Aztecs, they gave them a bunch of mushrooms and then convinced them that they wanted to die before they went and did it. You know, like this, they just you know, and those people are jumping out of the windows, pulling off their clothes like they were being microwaved. You know what I mean? What the heck is that? Like that? It's really, and like if you look at what we did at the end of World War II, we wanted to show off our new technology. You know, what is this 9/11 thing where they can just erase a building in the middle of a city? What kind of imagine the godlike power that they have, and they're like advertising it to everybody in the world, all the other governments, like, look at what we can do to you now, you know?
Right. Like that's the level element of 9/11 of how like they're telling one story to one group of people and another story to another group, but they're all out of the same event. Right. Like everybody, like they should have just known. Like Saddam Hussein, like he probably had to know the message. Like you're dealing with a different crew of people, man. And he like pled for his life like before the Iraq invasion. He's like, okay, what do you guys want me to do? What do you want me to do? And it's like, nope.
He used to work for them before anyway. It's like, okay,
he was installed by them. Yeah, he was installed by the CIA. So
yeah. And it's all one big web, you know. These people like Clarke here, he's working for the government to try to convince people that we went to the moon, you know. It's like, and I'm sure that, I mean, there's a lot to be said for black market. Like we were just talking before going on air about the blackmail operations that people have. And that also goes along with the, I don't want to call it tourism, but because it's like a positive connotation, but like sex offenders going to other countries in order to prey on children. Like Denny Hastert used to go to Thailand and stuff. He was given.
Melendez went to not Haiti. What's the Dominican Republic?
Right.
Melendez's thing. Yeah.
Right. And Dominican Republic is right there next to Epstein's Island. You know this. And then Ghislaine Maxwell was a scuba, or like would go in the, you know,
the Terramar,
right? And she had her like license for like underwater submersibles, and I mean, and then this guy, he goes to Sri Lanka because he wants to be floating weightless scuba guy, you know, but just so happens that Sri Lanka is the #1 destination for child sex tourism, because of the laws, the way that it's set up. The laws in Sri Lanka, if a child is considered 13 or younger, so a 14-year-old is an adult, as far as sex goes.
Interesting. So they have a low,
right? And the consideration, like the word rape legally only is vaginal penetration. So any other kind of sexual abuse or like, and boys legally cannot be raped. So there's like a legal loophole for boys there, where like 60% of the child, in quotes, prostitutes in Sri Lanka are boys. And that's why our friend Arthur C. Clarke ends up there and decides to live there. And so that's the main point of the show, is we're going to talk about like his
and he was going to predate on boys at a ping pong place, right?
Yes.
So like this ping pong theme pops up in Kubrick, in Lolita, in Comet Ping Pong, and all these. I've seen a video of Alec Baldwin this ping pong table, like
Gross.
all these Hollywood people. Yeah, and by the way, the blackmail we were talking about the blackmail, but it was P. Diddy, whose mansion is literally down the street from Hugh Hefner's Playboy mansion. So like literally there's like a nexus of blackmail. It's not funny, but a nexus of like blackmail taking place right there in Beverly Hills. It's off the charts. Like,
of course.
ah,
It's sick. But yeah, that's what we were talking about. I'm excited to hear the show that you recorded.
yeah, it's unbelievable. It's worse than the Epstein filings. Like I'm not exaggerating.
Right.
It is actually more disturbing.
Right.
Because there's so many other kind of criminal acts, like the ones that Virginia Giuffre, and she ties into this story. It's not believable, but Virginia Giuffre brought against Ghislaine Maxwell is pretty tame in comparison to the P. Diddy. It's really little Ron Jones, I think Ronald Jones was the guy who brought the suit. I mean, and a lot of this thing, these are allegations in a civil complaint. They haven't been brought to court yet.
The picture it paints is pretty horrific. I mean,
horrific. And there's pictures, right? So like he's got evidentiary pictures there. Those are
right. Yeah. But I mean, it's horrific because it's like the theft of free will of people, making them do what they don't want to do, and then getting it on camera and then using shame to control their actions in the future. Like it's really like
mega drugging. Like they knew according to the filings, they knew that people were getting drugged or women are getting drugged.
Separate alcohol bottles for the women that were drugged for the
right. And then the pictures were taken. So they're all doing like it's just an incredible culture. Right. It's really a culture like that. And it kind of reminded me of kind of smiley face killers of just a mass drugging, just constant drugging, or Jeffrey Dahmer just drugging the daylights out of people. Like, whoa.
Right. GHB specifically.
Yeah. Right. So it's that case is really something else. But Minsky, before I forget, Virginia Giuffre said she was trafficked to Minsky. And I have a picture of Minsky in here. And Minsky was the inspiration for the 2001 Space Odyssey, I think HAL or something like that. So
he was
a small world. Yeah.
He was the computer programmer or whatever that was.
Right. I think they actually mention him by name in the film or maybe in the book or something like that.
Right.
So, yeah. So Kubrick's doing Lolita. There's allegations of him having inappropriate relations with the girl. So he's not like a male attracted person. And then the allegations, I mean, Clarke basically came out and said I can't believe you found those articles, but he actually said in those articles.
Yeah, I've got them linked so that we can read them on air.
Yeah, they're no longer online. I mean, you found them online in what is it?
The freelibrary.com. And the dates are listed and it's just all the quotes. Yeah, you got it there.
And these are totally suppressed by Murdoch Media, and that's where it was originally published, if I remember correctly. So
Murdoch made a lot of money being friends with Clarke because Clarke talked about satellites, and Murdoch, being in the business of telecommunications, was like, "Oh, that's a good idea," and he invested a bunch in satellites and became even more rich because Arthur C. Clarke. That's why he's so loyal to Clarke. That's why
makes perfect sense.
Right. And I mean,
total genius. I mean, Arthur C. Clarke was a full genius, like Kubrick.
Right. A lot of those satanic people are, you know what I mean? They're stuck in that calculating left brain where I mean, I'm not saying that they're bad, but they are bad in their actions and whatever. Anyway, we'll move on from that. So the ping pong you mentioned, yes, that's in Lolita, and that was not in the book Lolita. That was added by Kubrick.
Wow, interesting.
Right.
And Kubrick knows all the symbolism, right? Because it's in Eyes Wide Shut, the pedo bear.
Right.
And some of this other stuff.
Cheese Pizza was in the Rainbow Room with the
really?
He was with the Asian men. He looks down, Milich looks down at the table and he says, "What is this?" And he's looking at Cheese Pizza. And then he finds the Asian dudes. What?
Right. Wow. Wow, that's incredible. So all that symbolism is there, all validated through Comet P.
Right.
Comet
And
P.
also the rainbow symbolism of, like, the rainbow, whatever is the name of the place, the costume shop.
Costume shop.
But while he's outside and he's talking to Milich through the little box. Yeah. Well, he's while he's on the buzzer, you can see below the place that's named Rainbow Fashions. Below that is another business called Under the Rainbow. And the O from Under the Rainbow in the word rainbow is a spiral. So
wow.
And that's like on the street, advertised to the people walking by. So like that spiral thing, you and I know from our research, that when the spirangle is for boy lover and the spiral heart is for girl lover, and they put little charms on the kids that are victims so that other pedophiles can see them and know how to treat them. And it's sick. And like,
it's a sick underworld. Yeah, it's crazy.
Right. So anyway,
rainbow.
Yeah, under the rainbow, that's what, like, when you go over the rainbow is when your body's being traumatized and your soul pops out because you can't take the trauma. But what's happening under the rainbow is what is being done to that poor victim.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And then like the room itself, the glass doors, like that is under a sign that says it's happening under a rainbow sign, like the neon rainbows. Never mind. So I talk about Eyes Wide Shut a lot and talk about Kubrick, and that's why I know about Clarke, and I've been looking at Clarke, and I think that because Kubrick was working with Clarke, he was because of that, and in that milieu of people, he knows all of these symbols and he knows what is actually at. That's why it's so layered heavily in Lolita. I think he's like exposing, and
he's showing it to the people who know. Like,
right?
He's not explaining it. So the symbol kind of like goes back to like either Manly P. Hall or something. Like, symbols are the real secret language. So this is the symbols for those types of people. It's like they know it. Right. And they can, it's just like masonry or something like that. They know a lot of the Masonic symbols or something.
Right.
And you say that Clarke was also Masonic, which makes perfect sense, that he was either a high Mason or the highest Mason possible.
I don't know for sure, but when this video that I'm bringing to the table today, he's advertising to Freemasons. Like, I don't know if you want to get into that first before we start reading
whatever you want. I mean, we can bring it up. Here it is.
Yeah, go ahead and bring that. Okay, so this is Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, episode 9. So I'm gonna skip it to 1 minute. In this episode,
it's so weird. Like, I grew up watching a lot of his stuff, Like,
yes, that's why
watching this. And,
that's why I'm excited to bring it to people's attention, because, like, Mark Passio, a friend of mine, he does a lot of work, and he offers this thing called the ARC. He calls it the Amazing Repository of Knowledge, right? And it's like a terabyte. It used to be 1 terabyte. Now he's given 2 terabytes of like books and shows and like, lots of audio and book and just lots of information. And he just gives it to people for free, or he asks for a donation, but you don't have to give whatever. I mean, it's whatever. And so I got this ARC from him, and I found this Mysterious World on the ARC. And I'm like, dude, have you seen episode 9 of Mysterious World? I'm explaining this to him, and he looked at me like, what? Like, he didn't know that it was included. So all of you out there that have the ARC, check it out. Arthur C. Clarke Mysterious World in the videos tab. So that's where I found this, and I was just dumbfounded because I can see the symbols. I'm looking, I study the symbols and stuff. So here we go.
Little customers were tasty freshwater perch, and soon the fish weren't flying but frying.
Fish that fell from the sky.
Some of them teetotal at that, swore that the fish came from the clouds, though how they got there is anyone's guess.
Mysteries from the Files of Arthur C. Clarke.
So now we're being introduced here to Mr. Clarke, and watch.
Author of 2001 and inventor of the communication satellite. Now in retreat in Sri Lanka after a lifetime of science, space and writing, he ponders the riddles of this and other worlds.
In retreat.
There it
Okay,
is.
now look at this.
That's ping pong.
He's got a ping pong table, and it's an advertisement for the club itself, Otters Club Colombo.
Wow.
That place is famous for pederasts to go for. It's like
that was like a meeting spot. So it's like
Yes.
the cover. It's like
It's-
a cover of the ping
you
pong.
got like a
cover.
sauna there, you got a swimming pool, and all of them they get in, and they do their stuff in the back rooms.
So it's not just Clarke. Clarke is there with other
Yes,
boy
it is like it's a flag post for the people that it's like, hey, come to this place specifically, and you can play ping pong with a young boy wearing Daisy Dukes. Let's keep going here.
Wow, crazy. That's all males.
I'm almost embarrassed to tell you.
Yes, yeah, I'm glad you noticed that. Look at those boys in the pool just waiting. Just floating there. They're not swimming, they're just in the pool.
This because many of you simply won't believe me.
He said he's embarrassed. Here, wait, let me replay it.
I'm almost embarrassed to tell you this because many of you simply won't believe me. But a most extraordinary thing happened right here in my local swimming club in Colombo, where every day I played.
Look at that dude walking
Every
back.
day he plays ping pong.
Yes, dude. Every day he goes to this place.
table
And
tennis.
it's
And
like
who's
a
that creepy
it's
dude
like
walking
a
through? Oh, go ahead.
gay bath or something, almost like
Yes.
a gay bathhouse.
Precisely.
Like that was big in San Francisco, and that's how all those
Right.
people got AIDS. Is like
Ugh.
they would go into the bathhouses on a weekend and have sex with 30 dudes or something like
Right.
crazy.
And the kids in Sri Lanka have an epidemic of AIDS. How do kids get AIDS?
wow, I didn't know that either. Wow,
Yeah.
that's so dark. Man.
So the
It's from people
the-
like him. People are
the
traveling
sex
around.
tourists,
Yeah.
they look for a younger child because they believe there's less risk of getting AIDS because they must have not had that
Right.
much sex because they're young.
Right. Wow.
So like that's what they seek because it's cleaner in their opinion.
wow.
It's disgusting.
Miss, with my partner here, Sarath.
His
And
partner,
Hillary-
Sarah.
His partner Sarah. I think
So is that the guy who was like his lover and died young or something? Is
I-
that the one? I think that was.
it
I
was-
think
you talking about the guy that did scuba diving with him? Or
he
like
had some kind of
with
like
family?
male. He tried to be married to a woman,
Right.
and that didn't work out. And then he had some kind of male.
No,
If that's Sarah,
guy's
let me see if I
different.
can find.
no,
it.
Seraph is a beach boy.
Okay.
So a beach boy, in quotes, is at the beach, like what do you call it? Like in the beach coastal areas where there's tourism, boys will go to the beach and willingly pick up old men.
Oh wow.
Like
So
because
it's like the opposite.
that's how they get money. Their parents convince them to do that. There's
Wow.
quotes of parents that say, "What's the problem? My son won't get pregnant."
That's the way
That's-
they're thinking about
Yes.
it. Wow.
Their economy is so depressed. It's like Weimar Germany all the time. For like they pay these people, they'll pay them like whatever, how many rupees, and it comes out to be like $2. And they'll like own them all day and rape them, and take them home and do what they want. There's a dude that I was watching. He bought 3 daughters from their mother for a week and was just in the room with them doing whatever he wanted to them for a
Wow.
week. $1,500 cash that he gave to the mother.
That's probably like 3 years of their salary.
Yeah, more than that.
More
I
than
mean,
that.
they could. I was reading that a kid could fillet an old man and get the same amount of money that he worked for like days and days worth of work. So the morality has been so crushed because the economy is so destroyed. Just like Weimar Germany, like anything's for sale.
Right.
But the laws like allow it more for the males because for some reason there's a stigma. They think that a male can't, like, because a boy is strong or something, can't be vulnerable in that way or whatever. That there's just this weird blindness where they don't see.
Different morality. Well, like it's a different moral code. Like in Islam, if the girl gets raped, it's her fault, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the inversion, right? It's like
Right.
that's the way they feel. That's why you got to wear your scarf and not be attractive to men because it's not their,
Right.
actions.
They're allowed to be animals and
Right.
attack
They're
any
allowed
woman
to-
they want.
Exactly.
Like,
Like it's your
disgusting.
fault for being beautiful. But here's Arthur's. This is from Wikipedia, but Clarke was close to a Sri Lankan man, Leslie Ikenyake, who was only 30 years old when he died, but whom Clarke called his only perfect friend of a lifetime in the dedication to his novel Fountains of Paradise. Clarke is buried with Ikenyake, who predeceased him by 3 decades in Colombo's Central Cemetery. In his biography of Stanley Kubrick, John Baxter cites Clarke's homosexuality as the reason why he relocated due to more tolerant laws with regard to homosexuality in Sri Lanka.
Right. Isn't that the perfect cover? Oh no, he's not touching kids. He's just a homo. That's why he's
That's what they
covering up.
always, that's all those
Right.
say, right?
It's like just like the LGBT,
he's a full-on pederast or whatever.
Right.
He's like David Ferry. He liked 15-year-old boys. That was his
I mean, so this is like an advertisement. He says he's almost embarrassed to tell us that he comes here every day and plays with his partner, Seraph. And Seraph like reminds me of Seraphim and like this like the spheres on the tree of life and shit. Like it's but anyway, let's listen to what Seraph has to say.
He told me an extraordinary thing. Seraph, tell me what it was happened that day.
That day I saw some 4 or 5
4 or 5 fish
fish under this Christmas tree here.
under this tree.
Yeah,
And were they lying on the ground?
yeah.
What did you feel when you saw them? What do you think?
I thought that come from that rainbow.
I see you thought the fish might have fallen from the rainbow.
Like,
Wow,
okay.
falling from the rainbow.
So what kind of so we know that rainbow is a significant thing for them, and like fish, like think about like when you go, someone arrives at jail and it's like, oh, new fresh fish, right? The new victim, right? So rainbow fish falling from the sky. So this is one of the mysterious things he's
Well, it's curious. I have known about this kind of thing for 40 years, but I never dreamt that it would have happened right on my doorstep. I mean, what an extraordinary thing, fish falling from the sky.
Okay, so yeah, that's that piece, and now we're gonna go to 17 minutes here. This is they're talking about something that fell from the sky, like a rock.
Basically, from the evidence of the ice itself,
From the
conclusion
evidence.
has to be that we just don't know. Some mysterious pieces of ice have been analyzed, and people find tea leaves in them and things like that, and that can prove that it does come out of an airplane.
So let's look at what the tea leaves, this Twilight language that he's also laying in. This guy's like saying, oh, the tea leaves. Let's look at the proof of what the tea leaves will tell us.
In this case, you're left without any positive evidence of any specific origin.
Now, there may be something of real.
Okay, so now this is at 17. It was like at 1717, right? Look at behind him.
Just more dudes.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got this guy. You'll see that the one in the white shirt is just walking, but the guy in the yellow shirt there, he's got his hand, like his head.
The Masonic thing, right?
Yes, the Masonic head on his square. He's got like his elbows are making the square, and then his face is on top of the top hand. So that's like being on the square. And then if you look at what he's standing on is a checkerboard.
Get out.
Look at that. You see that?
Yeah. Checkerboard, yeah.
And so like this, and he's just staring at the camera. So like, let's watch again. So,
Evidence
and listen to what
of
Parker
any
says.
specific origin.
Now, there may be something of real scientific importance behind this.
Scientific importance behind this. Like what is behind
look
him?
behind me,
Literally
yeah.
behind him. Scientific importance. This guy that's staring at the camera.
Of course, we know that ice can fall from aircraft. It can form on the wings. It can come, regrettably, from faulty toilets. So what's important are the reports of ice falls long before the era of aircraft. For example, in 1847.
That dude was just standing there, staring at the
there,
camera the whole time.
Wow.
This looks like evidence to me that he's saying, hey, everybody, come to Sri Lanka where you can have a nice boy like Sarif here and we can play ping pong. And the ping pong parlors, I guess we can take this down now. That's enough of that. The ping pong parlors are where the boys go to pick up the old men. And that's where the old men go to find young boys. It's like the bar for like, of age.
Right, like a pickup bar or whatever. Like
Exactly.
they're going to pick up on each other. Wow.
Exactly. It's a kids game where adults can play too. And that's the same thing with Comet Ping Pong. And the logo for Comet Ping Pong is Come T. It's COME, which is a slang for ejaculate, right?
Right, but the comet is also apparently in their nomenclature, in their kind of underground term. A comet is like a relationship that burns brightly and goes away. Do you know that?
I did. Well, I know.
Yeah, that's
no,
what
I didn't
it.
know
That's
that was
so. It
related.
means like to me, it's something that falls through the sky. But in like personal relations or gay romance, it's like a relationship that burns bright and goes away. Though, like
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Like a tryst.
Yeah, you can look it up in the Urban Dictionary.
That's funny. But I mean, I was just saying that like the logo itself, it has a squirt of white. Like there's like a white droplet of white liquid right above Comet. Like it says come and then it's got the picture of ejaculate like in the logo. And then the rest of the logo is the star and the crescent moon of the Baphomet on both sides, like a as above, so below.
Yeah, no, it's totally occulted, man.
Right.
They lied about everything in Comet. Like and there were, I think one researcher found their website had CP on it. Cheese pizza on some kind of hidden server or something, and that's like the guy goes in and shoots the server.
Right, that's the one place where the bullet goes.
The only bullet goes in the server. Sorry, everything's erased.
Right.
What a surprise!
So I mean,
he drove all the way from like North Carolina or something. It's almost like the Buffalo shooter. Like I don't even know why he drove all the way to Buffalo to commit a race crime. Like
because he was programmed to do so. He's probably one of those MK Ultra like. Manchurian candidate types that you tell them a thing and like, okay.
John, those don't exist.
Right. Okay. All right. So yeah,
dude, I said I interviewed this guy about the traveling mad bishops, and I said that hypnosis is the Rosetta Stone of post-war American history. It's everywhere, dude.
Look at the
it's
propaganda commercials,
RFK, JFK, MLK.
Right.
It's incredible.
Yeah, all the murders, right.
Yeah, so
yeah. And it's a perfect way to do like you have some patsy shooting a gun. Everybody looks at him and nobody looks at the cop who shoots Kennedy in the back of the head, like Robert at least. So yeah.
Dude, I'm going to do a show later today for people who listen. I'll put it up, but it's about David Ferrie hypnotizing people, and he knew post-hypnotic suggestion. So he wasn't a piker. Ferrie was not a piker, and it was overlooked in everything, like JFK, the movie, and almost no JFK researcher wants to talk about that, maybe for their credibility or sanity. But Ferrie, like, dude, Garrison said Ferrie was one of the most important people who ever lived. I don't think he was joking. Like, it's incredible. Ferrie was involved in almost kind of like P. Diddy. Like, he was involved in all kinds of pies, like, including stuff like Clarke liked. Right.
And then if you understand about like hypnotism and the mind control, and then you look at what Kanye said about that Pasternak guy and the tweet that he, or the not the text that he showed from Pasternak about, I will drug you into oblivion and you'll never see your kids again. Like, that's really how it works. You know, if they can't control him like P. Diddy does with the gay sex and the weird blackmail, they're going to go at their heads with like strap them down to a board and electroshock them, you know?
It's crazy. They just want control over everything, dude. It's all about control.
Right. And control comes from fear.
Yeah.
Fear is the opposite of love. Like, that's what the Satanists thrive on, is this opposite of natural, you know, love. And,
no, you're right. It's like control and fear and everything. That's the same dynamic.
right. Yeah. So,
Anyway.
okay. So back to so ping pong is a obvious tell, you know, and the fact that he's playing ping pong, of all things, he could have just kept walking on the beach with his rainbow umbrella, you know, and said all that stuff. He didn't have to have a young boy wearing Daisy Duke, you know, short shorts, playing ping pong.
Shorts, yeah.
Like, so anyway, so that's what he puts out to the public, right?
Right.
So you want to talk about what he doesn't tell people? We got those articles, I guess.
Those articles, let's bring them back up, man. Let's go.
So this is the first.
Which one do you want to start with? Smirk
top,
of a pervert and liar, or sex shame of Arthur C. Clarke?
the other one, doesn't any harm, damage come from fuss? Here, if you look in the chat, the top link, freelibrary.com, it doesn't.
What do you want? Do you want one of these two articles or something else?
Oh, there's a third one. There's a third one at the top of the chat here, where we're in with the chat here in the StreamYard. So I guess I want to start.
Well, that link didn't work. That's the problem. You have to resend it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It goes up to a 404 page not found. You have to resend that first.
One second. I got it here. Okay. Sorry, everybody.
The other two links work fine.
Okay, good. Yeah, I don't know why, but we'll fix it.
Let's figure it out. Let's try this.
Okay.
I can just type in
Okay, let's see if that. Oh, again. What the hell? Well, okay. Well, I'll read it from my side. How about this?
Let me see if I can bring it up.
Okay.
Doesn't Clarke.
So I can, while you're looking to see if you can.
Why don't you can bring it up on your side? Okay.
Start
there. It doesn't do any harm. Most
right.
of the damage comes from fuss of hysterical parents. Is that the one?
Yes, that's the quote from him. One of the quotes. Okay. So for the listeners, I guess, sitting in a room he calls his ego chamber, Arthur C. Clarke finally admitted his lifelong secret. Not only is he gay, but he prefers sex with beach boys. He gives it the ego chamber because he's surrounded by pictures of himself. I'm in favor of efforts to stop it. So they're talking about these guys. Okay. So the Sunday Mirror, February 1st, the Sunday Mirror in London, February 1st, 1998. Clarke was just like days away from receiving the OBE knighthood from Prince Charles, who was going to fly to Sri Lanka to give it to him personally. Wow. And because of this, the Sunday Mirror sent 2 reporters down there who just walked up to his house and didn't say that they were reporters, and they just struck up a conversation. So this is how they get this information. This is how they get these quotes. And when asked Clarke about suggestions that he may have been one of the original pioneers of sex tourism in Sri Lanka, he gave a wry smile and said, "I am more amused than disgusted that anyone should think that." He's amused that he promoted the sex travel to Sri Lanka. He was like one of the first.
Wow, so he was one of the first to figure it out. Wow.
Yes.
And Sri Lanka didn't have.
Go ahead.
Yeah, according to LGBT stuff, the Sri Lankans never had any legal. It was never illegal. They didn't have the Western kind of anti-homosexual thing, like from Christian morality or whatever it is. They
Right.
just didn't exist until Europeans imposed it on Sri Lankans. It was just like a natural thing.
That's weird.
Wow.
Yeah, because they didn't consider like it's weird. There was like some kind of weird stigma with like remaining, like not having sex until you're married or something, and then but you can go have gay sex with your friends until that moment when you're actually, it's some weird dynamic that they have going on there. There's a lot of weird cultures that do that kind of stuff. I mean, in Colombia, they have sex with donkeys before to practice having sex before they get with a real woman.
Where in Colombia?
Yeah, Colombia.
Wow, that's crazy.
Have you
ever heard that if you, like in certain South American cultures, if you sodomize somebody, you're not the gay one. You're not considered gay. Have you heard that?
That's the same way in jail.
Oh yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm not gay. I just sodomized them.
I was the pusher instead of the taker,
Right.
so that makes me not so bad.
Pitcher, not the catcher.
Yeah, it's like a domination thing at that point. You know, I mean, really, it's and that kind of is why
it's like the P. Diddy thing, isn't that probably it? I bet they're all sodomizing for power play, right?
Like buck breaking, like in the old days of slavery, right? To like bring them down and make them subservient, like to the alpha male. It's sick. Dude.
Probably just like jail. That's what they do,
right?
Like they just like humiliate.
Yeah, it breaks them down mentally, and it's the same thing with SRA. Like sexual abuse, like it traumatizes the brain, you know.
Right.
So, and even Crowley talks about like apparently anal abuse is way worse. It hits your brain with some kind of weird kundalini magic, and it like really fucks with people. Excuse my language. Sorry.
Right. I'll keep reading this because it shows that Clarke wasn't some independent. He was with other people.
Yeah.
He repeated the phrase often used by pedophiles. I think most of the damage comes from the fuss made by hysterical parents afterwards. If the kids don't mind, fair enough. Gross. In recent years, Clarke's name has been linked with two notorious pedophiles, one of whom, a Swiss millionaire, was kicked out of Sri Lanka on the orders of the president for abusing impoverished beach boys. He is now awaiting trial in Zurich, accused of sexually abusing up to 1,500 young boys.
Jeez.
And like Clarke, was friends with a lot of Sri Lanka's top politicians, senior policemen, and influential government figures. So they're courting these government officials to make sure they look the other way. It's just like P. Diddy, man. Or Epstein, right?
Right. It almost seems like he's there.
That's part of the program.
To be there, to bring in these pedophile people that they can then, maybe they're filming them. Maybe they got, maybe
they're getting money.
Part of that whole system of like blackmail that might be happening. Because we know like Dennis Hastert would go to Thailand and stuff like, so maybe Clarke was, part of their system and on the inside helping to bring more
blackmail people, right? Clarke is said to have attended parties at the tycoon's home. When asked if he had, Clarke replied, "I may well have done. I mean, the very first man I met here in 1954 was a pedophile and made no bones about it. He was in intelligence in the army, a fantastic guy."
Yeah.
So they caught him with his guard totally down.
He's being totally honest.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, in a week or so, the Prince Charles is going to be there to give him a big award, like make him a knight of the
OBE,
like Jimmy Savile.
British Empire. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Clarke said of his sexual preferences here, it would embarrass everyone right up to the president. I mean, I am chancellor of the university, a public figure. That is the problem. So I would be swallowed alive. I would probably be outed, you see. These days, the frail, white-haired old man gets around with the aid of a wheelchair and crutches following a polio attack 15 years ago. But Clarke's fading health does not stop him enjoying his favorite pastime, playing table tennis with schoolboys, a notorious pickup on for perverts called the Otters Aquatic Club. So we just saw the Otters Aquatic Club.
Yep, exactly. They even said, like, this place is notorious pickup for beach boys.
Wow, crazy. Crumbling in need of a coat of paint, the Otters is a meeting point for Westerners who lust after young boys. Those who hang around its games room, pool, and tennis courts are perfect prey are easily persuaded to sell themselves for 1,000 rupees, about 10 pounds, a small fortune to them. It's like $20 American back then, I don't know, 20 years ago. Clarke goes there regularly in the afternoon. He said on there he's there every day, right?
Yeah.
He said on that video, hobbling on a walking stick, a challenge to boys, some as young as 12, to a game of ping pong. Asked what his definition for pedophilia was, Clarke said, there are two different definitions. Anyone who interferes with young boys who are not old enough to know their own minds, and that's my definition. It varies for me. Asked how he knew whether the boys really did know their own minds, as he had known them for long, he said, because pure and simply they looked reasonably mature enough for me.
That's all.
Told one of them was just 13. He said, if he was 13, he will be a very mature 13. Asked if he thought that it was morally wrong, he replied, no. To that, some of the boys had told us they would not have had sex if he had not given them money. He said, I'm sure. I didn't make anyone do anything they didn't enjoy doing. The Sunday Mirror spoke to 3 boys who claimed to have had sex encounters with Clarke.
So they got those on tape, and I forget if it was like Interpol or something, like some police wanted to get those tapes, and they wouldn't give it. The newspaper wouldn't give up the tapes. The Sunday Mirror.
Sunday Mirror wouldn't do it. Wow.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know if that was the end of that, but
that wasn't. I mean, I just keep going. Godwin Fernando, 33, a former slum boy who scrapes a living selling lottery tickets on street corners, claims he was enticed into Clarke's bedroom at 13 after being invited to his house. He wanted me to give him a massage and showed me how to rub his legs. He put his hands on my shorts and started playing around. He wanted oral sex with me and said he would give me some money to help my family. I never liked the sex. I did it for the money. He told me never to tell anyone about the visits to his home.
Think about how many thousands and thousands of kids that Clarke has. I mean,
thousands. I mean, if that Swiss millionaire raped 1,500, and he's there every day, imagine.
Jesus.
Like, so he was there for decades, right? If every day he had one.
So like
that's like in 10,000, like.
And he goes around in like a Rolls Royce or like some wicked expensive car. And so everybody in town is like, oh, there he goes. Whoa. You know, the money guy.
He had the admiration. He was like knighted by the Sri Lankan government too. So. Right.
Well, he did get the OBE eventually after this scandal broke. Clarke was like, oh, well, he said the reasoning was that they were just trying to smear Prince Charles, and it's all hogwash and don't believe it. So they just
trying to smear Prince Charles through
blaming me. I'm a pedophile. Right. Just by having association with so like Clarke asked to put it off and said, maybe don't do it now, maybe. And then they did it later, like a year later, they came and gave him the OBE after everything was covered up by Rupert Murdoch. And I don't think Prince Charles actually went now after all that. But anyway, continue. Sorry.
It's just incredible. It's pretty graphic, man. He's having people over. Like, they found the dudes who he victimized. Anton Batoni, former translator for UK charity Save the Children, told how he was introduced to Clarke at the Otters Club by his pedophile boss when he was just 17. Arthur invited me to his house and asked me to give him a massage in his bedroom. At the time, there were photographs of boys on the bedroom wall, and he kept pornographic photographs of boys in a locked cabinet by his bed. He liked to show them to me before we had sex, but I wasn't really interested. I've sent 4 or 5 other boys. So it's just like Epstein. You get one and then you get the rest. I sent 4 or 5 other boys to his house because he asked me if I had any friends who needed, quote, help, unquote, meaning money. Anton, now 31, added, at the Otters Club, I saw him talking to one boy and heard him invite him back to his home. He was 15 years old and still at school. As a teenager, Sunil Jaya Teleki said he was picked up by a beach pimp as he swam and taken to Clarke's house. He said, I went into bedroom to give Arthur a massage. It's like Epstein, right? They started out with massages. Gross. He was wearing a sarong and took it off and lay naked on the bed. Gave me 15 pounds. Clarke was born in Minehead.
It's just horrific. It's so horrifying. So
Clarke publicly supports the Sri Lanka's gay rights movement and has donated a number of pro-gay books, including photographic studies of male nudes. Asked if in the past he was gay, Clarke had always replied, no, just mildly children. He was always, everybody knew he was gay. Like, it was an open secret.
It's so gross. But he's gay for 12-year-old boys is what he's gay for.
That's what he's gay for.
Mildly cheerful when they're like doing what they do to him. It's so disgusting.
I want to see if Otters is still there. If it's still,
I actually looked it up.
is it still there in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, it's still going. It's in Colombo.
Wow.
And like I looked at some of the reviews of it.
There it is.
Some people were happy, but other people were like,
Colombo.
this place is a dump. Why are they in business? How do they survive business? Because this place is like the paint. And even in this article, they're like, the paint's coming off. It's like what sustains the business is the pedophilia and
the outside people showing up, right? So
right,
that's
and bringing their money to go bang little kids. You know, it's
sick.
They got a website.
Wow.
Yeah, look, I mean,
This
look like paradise to you. It's like walls.
I guess that's it. Oh yeah, the Otter Aquatic Club. There it is.
Yeah, all
Dude,
the kids can't run
stories.
away. You can't see what's in there because of that big wall. Yeah, and the kids are locked in. Disgusting.
Dude.
Yeah, it's like a prison. It's built like a prison. Anyway,
Wow,
that's where they go.
Sinister quality to it.
Place with very small windows, no windows on the first floor. Like
it's still there.
Yeah, it's still there. And like I said, the reviews are not good. Some of them are good, like, but the way that they word it, it's very interesting. The way they word it seems like they're giving trigger words in the review,
in the reviews and stuff.
Yeah, like a pro pedo guy was like, yeah, it's good, but those things just overlooked at, and it's good for you, and like that kind of weird language. But anyway, so continue. This one,
this is smirk of a pervert and a liar. Like they really went after him.
This one is February 8th, 1998, Sunday Mirror. This is a week later. Go ahead.
Child sex pervert Arthur C. Clarke raises his glass and grins during a state banquet attended by Prince Charles. He brazenly mingled with dignitaries at the dinner in the Sri Lankan capital of Colombo on Thursday night, even shaking hands with Charles, now King Charles. Just 4 days earlier, the Sunday Mirror had revealed how the 80-year-old author of 2001: A Space Odyssey had admitted to paying for sex with young boys. Afterwards, he agreed to pull out of a ceremony in which he was to be knighted by Charles, but denied being a pedophile. But Clarke is a liar, and we have the evidence to prove it. On the right, we reproduce part of a tape recording of our reporter Graham Johnson's interview with Clarke. We also have a copy of a secret document which names Clarke as a pedophile known to members of the NAMBLA, North American Boy Lovers Association, one of the world's most notorious sex networks. I forgot about NAMBLA.
Gets better and better, doesn't it? It's just piling on, like, holy crap.
Oh my gosh. U.S. detectives who arrested leaders of the association 10 years ago say Clarke was named by other pedophiles as they quizzed during an FBI investigation. The perverts had set up children's homes in Thailand as fronts for their sick activities. One of its leaders was Jonathan Tampico, 48, a top nuclear scientist who worked for the American government. He served 2.5 years in jail for molesting a boy of 12 and is now on the run with $1 million warrant on his head for further porn offenses. So
yeah.
Another pedophile,
porn.
former
like
church minister.
Documentation, like when it's a kid on camera, they can't consent. So it is not porn. Porn has like people think of it as like positive. Oh, I like porn. It's not porn. It's evidence of child abuse. That's all it is, because they can't consent. So we need to frame our thinking like that. When they use these words, just like I said, I don't want to use the word sex tourism because it's like it connotes.
It connotes, yeah. It's like
good thing.
Sex rape, sex traveler rapists.
Right, rape travel or something.
Rape travelers, yeah.
Yeah.
Tampico told detectives he had stayed at Clarke's home in Colombo and had swapped letters with the author. So he was full on associated with arrested people in NAMBLA. Another known pedophile, former church minister John Wakefield Cummings, 56, is serving a 24 years to life sentence after admitting molesting 17 boys in his care. He told police in Sacramento, California, that Clarke had been contacted at his Sri Lankan home by a pedophile who was on the run from the American authorities. In a sworn statement made to an investigator for Sacramento's district attorney, Wakefield Cummings told how the pervert fled to Sri Lanka, where he was able to contact the pedophile community through Clarke. He then fled from Sri Lanka to Indonesia. So there's a pedophile community. So
Clarke is the plug. He's the plug-in to get access to the pedophile community. Wow, like
Wow, that's so
holy
dark,
crap.
man. Detectives contacted a child welfare group to warn them about Clark's activities. He's 80 at the time. Like, how much damage has he done? He was in Sri Lanka since 1956, and it's like 1998, right? So
Right. He was
literally
there
40.
before it was Sri Lanka. He was there when it was Ceylon, like totally like still under British control, you know. That's and when British pulled out, when Britain like gave them freedom, they just left them in the dust, just like Jamaica. They, you know, they had to fend for themselves, and their economy is still effed up,
Still, right.
you know.
A senior Sacramento detective said, "Oh, where is it? Yeah, we never had any reason to take action against Arthur C. Clarke because he was outside of our jurisdiction, but Clark's name did keep coming up. We were looking into members of the boy lovers at Nambla who all seemed to know or be aware of him. He ended up connecting to a lot of people we were investigating." I read this so long ago, I've totally forgotten. Tampico was one of those who said he went to Sri Lanka. I've seen letters between him and Arthur C. Clarke, but there was nothing overtly sexual in them, but they were clearly corresponding.
So we'll know them by their fruits, as it were. Like, what is like, there's nothing good that, I mean, Clarke was a genius, and yeah, geosynchronous satellites, but look at what his whole life has been dedicated to ping pong with Beach Boys, you know, paying them $2 for like a, you know, and those kids grow up the rest of their lives just like abused. Their heads are
Abused. They're
messed
like
up.
wrecked. They're
Yeah.
wrecked. You can see it in the Epstein victims too. They're all messed up. A lot of them get into drugs.
Yeah.
This is the quote I have. Literally, the bottom part of this smirk of a pervert and a liar.
Right. Same article. Right.
Section. Yeah, that's from that. So I didn't get into some of the old pedophile connections, which I should have. If I rewrite Children of the Beast, I have to put more of these articles in there. But man, that's so freaking bad, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So
He's
like,
he's
and
part of the network.
at the beginning of the first article, like, I mean, we were kind of going kind of fast, but he says what other pedophiles say, that it doesn't do any harm to the kid. The only harm is when the parents get all mad. I mean, really, they just can't. I won't believe this is harm.
Right.
I'm giving them money, and that then their morality
Rationale.
they don't have any guilt, and that they can continue doing the evil. It's just sick. I mean, to think about their minds and how their minds work and this immorality that they perpetuate their whole life. How do they? I mean, wow. A normal person would be like, maybe it's wrong. Maybe after all these years, like, and like reading the articles of the victims saying like how traumatizing it was, and he wouldn't have done it unless it was for the money. And Clarke is like, whatever,
right,
no remorse.
I'm fine. I mean, there's a little bit of British racism there too, right? These are all like subjects of the Queen, and they're not even British citizens and whatever. You know,
Good point.
Like, I think that might be involved and not stated, but
right.
I think you can deduce that. I mean,
and that goes back. That's part of Satanism. You know,
right.
Satanists think they are above others, and they have the right to kill or do whatever they want to them.
And that's the Luciferianism. That's definitely. Right. I mean, Luciferianism. Literally, I think in the Space Odyssey, the second Space Odyssey, the sun or the moon becomes a new sun called Lucifer.
Right.
Like the light of Lucifer is on the world. Like that's Clarke.
Right.
And that makes perfect sense.
It was Jupiter.
This,
like in the book, Arthur's book of 2001, the monolith came from Saturn.
Wow. So it's from Satan. Right?
Kubrick changed it. Right. Kubrick changed it to Jupiter. And if you understand the significance, the occult significance of what those planets represent, like Saturn is like Satanism and control and fear and basically control, you know. And Jupiter is like abundance and growth and good luck and you know, unbounded expansion. So like Kubrick took Clarke's satanic thing and turned it around to be like, oh no, this is a Jupiter energy. right? So like instead of like us thinking that this greatness came from an evil place, Kubrick is making the great things come from a positive, good place. And just like the that movie Nope, at the end it was Jupe's claim, this big thing, this balloon that's named Jupiter, which defeats this evil thing like
Evil
Saturn in the sky.
agency,
You know,
yeah.
there's a lot of occult. So like this goes through like current stuff and way back into the old days. Jupiter and Saturn are like competing forces for our worship, I guess, or you know,
Right.
and
And for people who don't know, like the monolith is 11 feet tall in the book, so it's fully the number of magic, right? And this is corresponds to like Apollo 11. That's what he's involved in, is the fake moon landing. So this guy knows the
Right.
kind of current magical tradition. There's no question about it. And if Kubrick had to probably learn about from. I have pictures of them which I can bring up, but like there's pictures of
definitely
them
show the
together.
one with Spielberg. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the guy that he moved to Sri Lanka with.
The guy in the center.
The guy in the center who's like 17 or some shit at the time.
There you
And
go.
then they would go, you know, gallivanting in the water or do whatever. So
This is him on set, right?
yeah. But definitely show the Spielberg one because
Okay,
remember from the article, okay, there's Werner von Braun.
Yeah, there's Paperclip Nazi. So Werner von Braun has said there's no way we could make it to the moon. We would have to have like the equivalent of 4 spaceships the size of the World Trade Center to get enough fuel to get out there and get back. Like that's Werner von Braun. This guy was a full genius. Like he is extraordinary. He was doing calculations for the V2 rockets without a computer. Like he was doing them in his brain, like freaking full on calculations of trajectory, weight.
Right.
The mathematical calculations are off the chart. Like for these early rocket scientists, now they can do it all with computers. But like he was like writing it all.
It took a real brain back then, you know.
Yeah, they had real brains. Yeah. They weren't relying on computers. Arthur Childhood's End is like the full on the entity is like a demon, right? It looks like the people's representation of the devil. And then it's funny like because humanity goes to the stars, and that's the end of our childhood. So it's almost like he provides like a different ending for humanity, different than the Bible, right?
Well, what is childhood's end? That's puberty, right?
Right.
You think about it.
Maybe that's the subtext. Like maybe they should read his freaking fiction for like pedophile themes. I wouldn't be surprised these guys put it in there. Just like was it Alice in Wonderland or what's the other? Yeah, it's like it's a pedo story. Right?
And the
dude was a full on.
Yeah,
he liked younger girls.
Right, the guy who did
Dodgson.
Yeah.
Prelude to Space is this Prometheus. So he's got this. So he's putting his kind of esoteric knowledge into these. No question.
Right.
There's him in his study that he was talking about.
Right, his ego chamber. Oh, and I just wanted to say before that about the Jupiter Saturn thing, he turns the good thing of Jupiter, he turns it into Lucifer in his next book. He's like, no, Kubrick, no, this good thing that you like so much, it's Lucifer now.
Yeah, he's a full-on Luciferian. There's no question. And at the beginning of Rendezvous to Rama, he's got like the 77s and 93. So he knows Crowley. Like it's incredible. These are not mistakes, dude. And these guys, he emulates some of these other so-called fictional writers, like the guy who wrote Communion. What was his name? Like that guy who the aliens is full on. No,
Heinlein, Asimov, and then this guy. They were like the top.
Somebody told me that. So Asimov's son got busted with the biggest thing of child pornography in human history. Have you ever heard that?
Are you kidding? No, I never heard that.
Yeah, so the son was like, he got busted for having the biggest aggregate of library of child porn in human history. And he got off on it with a slap of the wrist. Like he should have gone to jail forever, and they should have tracked down like how the hell this is being done. But I was told that
that's created is another instance of abuse. Like think about how many children had to be abused in order to create that huge library that he has.
Right. So just tons of just like mountains of abuse, like an Everest of abuse was in his library. And he didn't get charged, or he got a slap on the wrist. I was told by a credible researcher that the dad was a pedo too. So Isaac Asimov and his son were like, the family trait was pedophilia, which gets really super dark. And it ties into the present thing. Like Zuckerberg was in Congress recently, like within the last month, and they were saying, like, you are allowing child abuse material. They call it CSAM now, child sexual something.
Child sexual abuse material.
Yes,
right.
And these people were like, you're continuing our abuse by allowing it on your site. And he never took it off. And it ties into Clarke and Diddy, because I think that he's allowing that, or whoever's behind Facebook. And so there's all kinds of spooks involved in a lot of these tech companies. They're doing it for blackmail. So they know that you're exchanging. And that's probably the whole underground goal of pornography. And that should scare everybody out there. That's the underground goal of pornography. Whatever it is, there's somebody at NSA knows your tastes.
Yeah.
And if you,
who runs the porn industry, and then who runs Hollywood, and who is Kanye talking about? Like,
right.
It's like,
there's definitely a Jewish element. I mean, people are afraid to say it, but
well, no, I'm not
all
afraid.
Jews, but there's a lot of Jews in the porn industry.
Of course, it's not all one, but I mean, it's funny that the porn industry kind of started from that Jewish mafia, and like Hollywood too started from the Jewish mafia. They had to escape from New York and go to Hollywood because like all the legal troubles they had in New York. So like it's the blackmail thing. It's not just the Jews, of course, but it's like the whole system of kakistocracy, of like hierarchical structures of power. If you're working with psychopaths, obviously they don't trust each other. They don't trust anybody. The only way to get them to follow orders is blackmail. Money only goes so far. Like, people can get all the money they want playing the game, a rigged game. I
think the insight into P. Diddy is that that's the way a lot of these things were run. That's the way Hollywood's. That's the real iron fist of Hollywood underneath the surface of this kind of shiny thing, is that it's almost run like a mob. Like, you have fixers, cleaners, drugs, you've got blackmail, you've got all the stuff, Hefner, all that stuff. Hefner's
all on camera, all documented.
So if you want to just kind of generalize like a bunch of Jew hatred or something like that, because Hefner was not Jewish. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying.
I mean, like the Roman Catholics,
people are trying to smear the Jews or whatever.
But I mean, the Roman Catholics are the ones that gave those Jews all their money. You know what I mean? It's like it's the same, like ancient Rome. Like, they are the one. I'm in my opinion, I think that there's people higher up on the level. Like, the Jews are the ones that are just doing the money stuff. And ever since, like, when the Pope way back when made it illegal for usury, but the Jews can do it, that's because they had their court Jews. It's only because of the tradition of the money handling and the popes and stuff. So I didn't mean to take us off track.
No, it's okay. No, but it's kind of part of the larger issue. But Clarke,
so like the pornography, each one of those, like you were saying, how the pornography is a way to it's like a honey trap for all the pedophiles, so that they can collect them, get that information, and then use them. If you look at Kathy O'Brien's story, her dad was making child CSAM of her being abused, and he was sending the tapes through the mail, and they found it because it's interstate, the FBI or whatever. Like, they came to him and said, we can either put you in jail or you can work for us and we'll make you rich. You can sell us your daughter and we can do what we want to her, give her to,
Right. And that's kind of almost ties back into Clarke, right? He founds one victim and then that guy brings him 5 more, just like Epstein. So it's like this viral abuse. And it's almost like the abuse is like, welcome to my Luciferian world. Like, this is a world of abuse. You know what I mean? And I'm continuing to abuse.
Your free will.
He was probably abused, right? And so then he's just continuing the whole cycle intergenerational abuse cycle. It's
Right.
incredible.
Like that Tool song where it's like, the prison sex. It's, it's like, oh, I was abused and then now I'm the abuser. That's how the words go. And it's like, it's
bad.
disgusting shit. It's really gross. I'm sorry, my language again. Sorry.
That's all right. But this is an incredible picture because it shows the connection between Kubrick, Clarke, and NASA.
Right.
So this is George Mueller, who was like one of the top guys at NASA. And that's mid 60s. They're in England, and they called, when they were making a Space Odyssey, it's just like a colloquial term, but they called it NASA East, because it was something similar to NASA. Like there were clear overlaps of what was going on,
Right.
This is just full on evidence. This guy George Mueller, you can see him during the fake moon landing, like he's in one of the sequences. And Werner von Braun too. These guys are all in on the big.
Right.
It was part of the Cold War. Right. The moon landing was a way to tout capitalism.
Right.
And
we can reach higher than you. We can reach a taller Babylon tower than you do. We can reach the moon.
And it's actually part of the weird Kennedy assassination because Johnson was part of these huge deceptions.
Right.
Like the what's the incident that started the Vietnam War? It was
Gulf of Tonkin.
Gulf of Tonkin incident was fake, and this is fake. It's all fake. It's all fake. So there's Kubrick and Clarke together.
Right. And so like the NASA people needed to learn from Kubrick how to light the stuff, how to do it properly. It might not have been Kubrick who actually filmed the footage of the fake moon landing, but it was like they learned from him. Like he impressed them with that Dr. Strangelove, and because they denied him the inside of the plane. And with his own research, he was able to make an exact replica. They were like, no, you can't use, nowadays how the military gives equipment to the movies to go film. And as long as they paint the military in a positive light,
right.
That's like
it's still there. This is common knowledge. Yeah.
Right. So like, they denied him the use of the plane, and he went and created the inside of that plane exact, and they were like, wow, that was impressive. And then ever since then, he's like, they are learning from him. That's why all those NASA guys are there hanging out. Everybody thinks that he's learning from them to make a nice movie, but it's the other way around. I think that they're like taking.
I think Bart Sibrel, Moon Man, he's studied the moon landing forever, decades. He said that they had a top secret lot in like Arizona or New Mexico. That's where they filmed it, which makes sense. I mean, guys, the American government has huge projects, secret projects you have no idea about. MK Ultra was one of them. Manhattan Project was one of them. The moon landing was one of them. There's all kinds of heavy duty stuff.
Right. And all this blackmail and Epstein stuff, that's one of them.
Yeah, no
like
doubt.
The government's running the blackmail. Yeah. And it's worldwide.
Question.
Like when
it should scare the living crap out of you, because DARPA is like one of these things that's getting all these defense, like high end stuff. Like we don't know. I mean, I don't know what was in the shots that people took, but the original devil's juice or voodoo juice that was in there came out of DARPA in 2015. Like if people knew that DARPA was involved in warp speed, they would just freak out. They'd just be like, this is terrifying, dude. I would never touch that. I will never touch a needle in my life. I would rather have somebody point a freaking double-barreled shotgun in my face and threaten to pull the trigger than have a syringe of any type.
Right.
You're crazy. Like, you want to put a syringe in your body after these people are in power? You should check yourself into a mental institution and ask for the rubber room and get a straitjacket, because you are crazy as F. No question.
I've learned that they're trying to make pretty much all injections mRNA now. I've learned that they're trying to make like regular anesthesia for if you go to the dentist and get a tooth pulled or whatever. Like they're going to make those mRNA shots with the lipid nanoparticle and all this.
Dude, the average hospital is
I'm afraid of all of them now.
dude.
Like,
It's a freaking mortuary. Go to the hospital.
Yeah, it's always been, I think. Right.
I think it's always kind of been, but it's much more overt and obvious now.
Yeah, before they used to just bleed,
deliberately killing people. They're murderers. I've likened them to Nazis. A lot of these people are no different than Nazis. They're actually just more sophisticated because they can kind of clean their hands and stay separate from it. So,
well, if you look at IG Farben and Siemens and like Bayer and stuff, these are all Nazi companies. You know, like they're still going.
The American ones have been hollowed out and replaced people with Nazi intent. And some of them, a lot of them are Jewish too. Like, I mean, that's what's really scary is like, whoa.
It's interesting that the Jews are doing a genocide now. It's like, I thought you guys didn't like genocide. What the heck?
It's not the principle. It's the fluid moral code. It's pretty
right. Yeah, we're like we're better than you. Like it's the same as it's just Satanism. It's not really Judaism. It's like where they see themselves as superior and that they can kill others. Basically eugenics. Like it's the same ideology as all the other dark occult people. You know, like anyway.
It's very dark, man. What's going on in Gaza could not be darker. It's about demographics too. It's there's a lot going on. Like it's
the food thing is even scary. Like
the food thing's bad, and the fact that you can just like say everybody's Hamas. I think Hamas is underneath your church. We're gonna blow it up.
And then
those are our weapons. They're weapons, dude. Did you ever see the airlift into Israel that was approved by Blinken? It was like see what other these huge transport planes like were just going around the clock dropping off. C-150s were just dropping off 2,000-pound bombs on the daily. There's over and over and over again. It was all hidden from the American public. But those are your bombs committing genocide on kids too, which is, I mean, the other thing what's also interesting comes to mind is like the Old Testament Bible is like eye for an eye, right?
Right.
But like a lot of those people in this whole October 7th event were killed by the Israeli military. Exactly. They were strafed under the Hannibal Directive.
Right.
So they had killed 100 people or something, and a lot of the rape stories are fake. A lot of them have been discredited. And now they killed 30,000 people. So just
like how they started the Gulf War.
It's like you're not even following the Bible, bro.
Yeah,
this is crazy. Like,
and then when you look into it, it's like all a false flag, just like the Gulf of Tonkin. Anyway, like it was allowed to happen, and paid for by Israel. So like it's all
this. A moment that they could do it. Yeah, I mean, I think that
this is how we start a war. We got to be like, oh, they did that.
Do you know that Hitler? Do you know that Hitler had his own fixer to start all these wars like that? He started. He had one guy that would go fake stuff. So like when they invaded Poland, there was a guy they sent out. It made it look like the Poles attacked Germany, right? So this is like 1939 or something like that. I forgot the guy's name. You can look him up. Like Hitler had his own like drug. Like his name was Morel, who would just shoot him up with freaking.
Oh, that guy. Follow him around everywhere. Yeah,
follow him around everywhere. The Fuhrer's tired. He cannot come out, and then 5 minutes later, the Fuhrer's in great shape. He right. But I have to look this up. But this guy faked all these wars, and the invasion of Belgium, and Poland was a fixer. Like they were all fixed, and drove the Germans crazy. So like when Goebbels like told the Germans the Polish invaded, the whole nation went up in arms. Like we can't have this. And it's the same thing in the Gulf of Tonkin, same thing October 7th, same thing 9/11. They pull the same stunts over and over again on the people. And people just, I mean,
like why don't people get it yet? And of course they haven't changed their playbook because it works every time. People are just like, duh.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I think even like Borman or one of the guys said, you just do the same thing every time. You find an enemy and you
making us and them.
Yeah.
Like, demonize them. We are great. Yeah. Right. And that brings everybody along.
This is the guy right here. Look up Alf. Oh, let me see if I can find it. Alfred Naujoks staged the Gleiwitz incident, but he also staged something else. Like he made it through World War II. Like this guy was just full of. He did the same thing in Belgium. Yeah.
Right. This is how
Josh.
This is how they get our consent. This is how they engineer our consent. And it's the same as what the television commercials from the 50s.
Yeah.
It's really
Anyway, let's
sick.
get back. So these are more pictures of Kubrick with Clarke, just a lot together. But this is the connection between Epstein and Virginia Giuffre's Minsky. Minsky, it says here, Minsky was an advisor on Stanley Kubrick's movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. One of the movie's characters, Victor Kaminsky, was named in Minsky's honor. Minsky is mentioned explicitly in Arthur C. Clarke's derivative novel of the same name, where he is portrayed as achieving a crucial breakthrough in artificial intelligence in the then future 1980s, paving the way for HAL 9000 in the early 20th century and AI right now, which is a woke AI, at least Google's woke AI. Like this overlaps into real world things, but Minsky is named as Virginia Giuffre. She was sent by Epstein or Maxwell to Minsky. It's really sick. So this is the picture you wanted me to show.
Yeah. Look at Spielberg's face. I know the listeners can't see, but I'll describe it, I guess. Like, okay, there's three people here. Harrison Ford in the middle, which, interestingly enough, Eyes Wide Shut. Some people speculate Dr. Harford. The word came from Harrison Ford. Kubrick mashed those together to make Harford. So maybe Harrison Ford has seen more than, there's rumors that he walked into those Eyes Wide Shut parties. But anyway, there's Arthur Clarke with his sarong and his t-shirt, and he's got his arm on Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford has his arm on Spielberg, who looks like he was caught with his hand in the cookie jar. And this is like he knows this photograph is evidence.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Spielberg,
and he's in Colombo. They had to go visit him in Colombo. Right. I wonder if he's been to the Otter place, man. Spielberg. Yeah. Oh,
and then
there's rumors about that guy. I don't know if the rumors are true. But.
And you remember that movie? Harrison Ford had a little kid following with him everywhere he went.
That's right.
Who had knowledge of adult themed ideas. That's kind of borderline. Spielberg always has kids like in
kids. A lot of kids in his films. And the rumor is that he takes those kids, he lures them, he gets them onto the film. But I got this other side project we can just film alone together.
Right.
Where it gets
just like Quilty from Lolita. Lolita was used for pornography by Quilty, this rich scene, or like what did he do? He made plays. He was a playwright instead of a movie maker, whatever. And he was married to like a dark occult witch, and then he uses Lolita for pornography. So I'm sure
I need to go take a shower with a Brillo pad. This is so dark.
Yeah. Well, I
can't believe this is real. This stuff really exists.
If you look into Heather O'Rourke and how that whole situation played out, I don't know if the rumors are true, but holy crap, that Spielberg is one of the most evil people, in my opinion. Like
he was, he's friends with Michael Jackson. There's pictures of him being at Michael Jackson. So he shows up at all these pedo areas, Colombo, Michael Jackson's Neverland, all these kids in his films. Like he's really doing Goonies. Watch Goonies. If you see Goonies, like there was one sequence,
one-eyed sweet stuff or whatever. One-eyed.
Yeah, well, he's like a giant, male member or whatever, the dude.
Yeah.
But there's sequences where the kids, the visual of the kids, it's like right at the groin level of another male character.
Oh
yeah, no, it's really bad. I was like, what the hell? What's he doing?
What kind of awkward moment is he putting us in?
That's why I got to go back and read through Arthur C. Clarke stuff and see if he's got the whole underground symbolism like Kubrick.
Maybe just get the PDF and do Control F for certain words. I wouldn't read all that crap.
What would it be?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What's this? Stanley Kubrick, Odd White sex parties. The Equinox ritual. Here's your whole thing about planetary alignment at the end of the film 2001 in the sequence called Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite. So Jupiter, the Jupiter kind of thing.
Jupiter instead. And they people claim there's this idea that, oh, the only reason he changed it to Jupiter is because he couldn't make the rings look right in the CGI or that he had at the time. So that's the excuse why they changed it. But that's just a cover story.
All right, and here's Clarke on the black and white checkered, right? So it's beyond good and evil, right?
The floor of the house of Freemasonry, right?
Yeah.
Right.
There's Clarke again with the monolith, 3001, the final Odyssey.
He's touching it like the apes.
Like, yeah, the apes, yeah. And these guys are probably all Darwin, they're Darwinists. We're just a bunch of modified apes, right?
Right.
There's no God.
Right. That's kind of what, like, Kubrick, of course, is an atheist too. And like, so they were, it was apes and it was like the point where apes get smart or whatever. That's the whole theory. Like Terrence McKenna had the idea that they ate mushrooms or something. Some people think that we started eating cooked meat and it allowed our muscles to like shrink so that our brains could get bigger. There's all these theories, right? But in this, like, they're portraying the apes as early man, but it's also like it says dawn of man, and that puts me in the space of like Adam and Eve, and it's also like this place before we see the monolith, that is the paradise of Eden, where everybody's getting along, the animals and the people get along together, and then and in this way he's relating the serpent to the monolith, even though it's also using the Darwin idea. It's like he's layering them both together so that all of those ideas are combined and all viewers can see something from there. It's really interesting.
It's very important because the Darwin idea is in direct contravention to the biblical creation Genesis, right? So it's an alternate Genesis story that takes God out of the equation, right? So it's very important when you see that. At least from like a Christian perspective, it's like, this is our kind of worldview, whether we we don't, we're atheists or whatever. So we got to figure out some other way. There's a very,
if there is no God, then that leaves the space for them to be God.
Right. That's right.
Like where they can just ascend in technology and someday
AI and all that stuff. Yeah, really interesting.
And that goes back to the egoism of Satanism itself. Like the mind virus of Satanism is ego. Like written
over everything.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is definitely Sri Lanka. You can just tell because they always have these rolling green areas, and there's the monolith in his background. Like this guy's obsessed with the monolith. And there's Clarke on his deathbed with some elephant tusks or something.
Yeah, I think that's a Sri Lankan thing. I've seen government officials who have that behind them and stuff. But so this is his totally not religious funeral, but he is surrounded by roses. Like, I don't know, like the rose is a very occult theme idea. And Crowley even put the rose on his cross, like on the back of the top deck, like the Rosicrucian is a big deal. So
the Rosicrucian, yeah. Well, the Rosicrucian view is like the cross is the birth of life on a dead cross, right? So the rose is the symbol of life, and the cross is dead. It really has a darker meaning.
But the rose.
So here's just a sec. Here's Marvin Minsky named alongside several other prominent men. So he's totally involved in this. Named in this. Minsky, the accusation against Minsky was made by Virginia Giuffre, who was deposed in May 2016 as part of a broader defamation suit between her and Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell. In the deposition, Giuffre says she was directed to have sex with Minsky when he visited Epstein's compound in the Virgin Islands. Where did you go to have sex with Marvin Minsky, manager? Answer, I believe it was the U.S. Virgin Islands. Sorry, Jeffrey Epstein's island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So that was it. Yeah. A separate witness lent credence to Giuffre's account, testifying that she and Minsky had taken a private plane from Teterboro, where Epstein was arrested, to Santa Fe and Palm Beach in March 2001. Epstein, Maxwell, and chef Adam Perry Lang and shipping heir Henry Jarecki were also passengers on the flight, according to the deposition. At the time of the flight, Giuffre was 17 and Minsky was 73. So this dirty 73-year-old man. But the funniest thing is Adam Perry Lang was all over Epstein, and he was on like Joe Rogan, supposedly the arbiter of some kind of truth. And Rogan didn't ask him one question about Epstein. Like, dude, you were there. You saw everything. You were his private chef. Incredible.
Yeah.
Like, I would just be like, tell me all the details, man.
Exactly.
These guys they probably have to keep their mouth shut because they get wasted.
I think there's certain things that they have to cover up. Like they're allowed to talk about horse paste or whatever, but they're not allowed to, like, Joe Rogan denies chemtrails. Like, I mean, come on.
I've seen them,
it's like a stratospheric aerosol injection is the term. Like all you got to do is look up that term. Chemtrail has been this demonized word that everybody's like, oh, conspiracy theorist. But like, dude, look up the actual word and it's there. And Rogan's like, whatever, that's crazy talk. And I'm like, God damn. So he's obviously a gatekeeper. That's why
he's a gatekeeper. There's no question he's a gatekeeper. There's no doubt. When you have CIA agents on there and never talk about CIA, and you have certain people, you're a gatekeeper, dude. You're a comedian gatekeeper. He's a perfect role. He's got the, like, I'm not saying he was created, but like he has like the tough guy image, the fighter image. So like all those people are like, oh, Rogan's one of me. I sleeved and tattooed and he's got muscles and stuff.
He got famous making people eat bugs, giving them money to eat bugs, and now it's like everybody's ready to eat bugs.
Dude, Holmes has done very well for himself. Like he just signed another. Like people were shocked when he signed $100 million contract with Spotify. He just followed on with another $250 million, and nobody really blinked an eye. They just were like, okay, I guess that's a lot of money, but that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I'll tell you though, after this latest revelation with the P. Diddy stuff, I did go and I found a way to record that latest show that Joe Rogan did with Cat Williams, because I wanted to hear what he was going to talk. Because that episode, the show that he did with Shay Shay was very revealing. Cat Williams is in the know. He's hip.
I don't know who Shay Shay is.
Oh, Shay Shay is like some ex-football player who has like a podcast, and you know, it's a chill place for people to hang out and talk. And Cat Williams was invited, and he revealed a bunch of stuff. Cat Williams has always been talking about, you know, the gay Illuminati of like.
Right. I think he mentioned Baphomet in one of his. I saw a little clip of that. Like
he was talking about the emerald. He was talking about the emerald tablets of Thoth. Wow. Like it on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan acts like he's never heard of it before. Right. I'm like, what? Dude?
He's full of crap.
He's like can't even read. He couldn't read Trismegistus, and like Joe Rogan's got all these people. Apparently, he reads all this stuff, and he doesn't even know how to say the word Hermes Trismegistus. Like, come on, guy.
Give me a break.
He's
a good actor. He's playing a role. I'm telling you, he's playing. He's got a persona. He's playing a role. He's doing a good job.
Yeah, I think
one of his best friends was the lead singer of Tool, like the head singer of Tool, and that guy's a full-on occultist.
Yeah, Maynard works for the military. Maynard went to West Point.
Yeah, his drummer's a full Crowley-loving, Crowley-collecting magician, dude.
He's one of the most successful magicians I've ever seen. Like his life, like just look at what the arc of his career. But I think he was placed there. I think his father was a high occult Freemason who would, in quotes, play with swords in the backyard. Wow. He said, Danny Carey in a quote once said, my dad's not like he's not like the 99% of Freemasons. He plays with swords. In other words, he does occult ceremonial magician, right? So Danny Carey is bloodline, I believe, and I think they created Tool, and they sent Maynard up to Seattle to become part of the grunge scene, and then connected back to LA because Tool is from LA, and that whole Laurel Canyon thing, and they've always had a center there in LA. And so Tool kind of took that whole momentum that was coming from the Melvins and even Nirvana and all that, you know, Tool was somehow connected to that. And then in 1993, Lollapalooza, Tool had like their big coming out party where they played the Lollapalooza, and they were there with like Primus and Alice in Chains. And they also Timothy Leary was there.
Wow.
And Timothy Leary's personal assistant, who would, in quotes, do anything for Timothy Leary, ended up being Danny Carey's wife. Like, that's where they met. This
Wow.
93 Lollapalooza. It was like he was given this woman as like a trophy.
Wow.
It's crazy. And
That is crazy.
it's not his
Those,
wife anymore.
dude,
Yeah,
these are
to
just
be-
full on Illuminants, man. There's no question.
dude,
Just like Clarke.
93 was when they had a very satanic thing in the beginning, and then they had a fight with their record company. I think they're doing new stuff now. I think they're positive occultists in a way. They're trying to help people.
Sure, whatever.
No, really.
It's like saying dark occultists or light occultists. It's ridiculous.
Well, but listen though, what the occulted knowledge of what was coming with the whole pandemic, they knew.
They knew it.
They did an album that came out in August of 2019 called Fear Inoculum, and it was about don't be afraid of what's coming. And in the words, Maynard's lyrics were like, "Be afraid of others, fear the breath of others, like stay away 6 feet and like wear masks." That whole shit,
So
all
they
of that
knew
was like in there. And so
they're
like
trying to push it again now, dude. They're trying to do it all the same playbook again for this election.
I know. And Tool might be coming out with a new album too. So hopefully, like, I think that it was like having that album first, if we could really hear it, and it was saying, don't be afraid, don't be deceived by the deceiver. Like, there were some very positive messages in that album. And I think it was released in 2019 because they knew what was happening and they were putting it out ahead of time to inoculate us from the fear that was this magic spell of fear that was coming. Yeah. So I've changed my tune about Tool. I think that I think lately they're doing good things as opposed to when they started. They were very satanic. Their life feeds on life, the immoral like type of shit, like stuff. Sorry, language. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. We're gonna be okay. I mean, a few swears words here and there, and
I apologize, listeners. It's all my fault. Yeah.
We are at the 1 hour 36-minute mark. I mean, it's been great to talk with you. Is there anything you'd like to add, or where can people find your show?
Yeah, Wake the Dead is available on many podcast listeners, and the RSS feed is available through Spotify, and I'm also publishing the videos on Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, and sometimes YouTube, not often.
They're cracking down. Like, I think somebody just got one of their YouTube videos flagged from 10 years ago.
Right.
Like, I just saw that on social media. Like, I think it was Derek Bros or somebody like.
I had one. The first video I ever put up was about circumcision, and that was the only topic. That was all I was talking about. It was just me talking into the camera saying circumcision is wrong. And then I got an email from YouTube the other day. It's been there for like 3 years now, and I got an email saying that they pulled it because of medical misinformation. I was so infuriated. I was like, and I fought it, and I was like, this is contesting this. And then like 2 hours later, they sent me an email. Whoops, sorry, it's fine, and they put it back up. But if I didn't fight it, like they can. There is no medical misinformation. It's obviously wrong to chop up little babies. It's harmful to them in many ways, and like that's all I was saying in the camera. But the American Medical Association doesn't say it's wrong because it's run by Jew. Like, I mean, again, but I mean, I'm not a anti-Jew guy, but really we need to think for ourselves and not just do what the doctor says, and that's. But
dude, there's so many crazy traditions that are in medicine today that are really snake oil. It's total joke. Like the entirety of the antidepressant pill factory is just a
trap,
and so is the inoculations. I mean, you look through that.
Yeah.
The fact that they're putting, I mean, I'll probably get flagged for this, but the fact, I mean, in the human body, there's no acceptable amount of mercury. You might as well put plutonium in your body, or curare or arsenic, and they're putting it in these things. Like, it's like, this is This is fundamental. This is how hard.
At a point in our
control.
stage of development when there is no blood-brain barrier, it goes right
Yeah.
into those kids' heads. I mean,
I've said it before. I'll say it again. Every person with autism is done intentionally. It's all done intentionally.
yeah,
And it's so freaking
it's
sick.
such a and it makes us sick and weak and not able to fight and not smart enough to be able to see that they're destroying us. This is how they dominate our
They're
species.
monsters, dude. They're monsters.
Yeah, they're all predators like this guy, Arthur C. Clarke, who
Predator.
has no immoral feelings, has no
Nope.
guilt about
Nope.
enhancing the like making Sri Lankan rape tourism
Hey.
a popular thing for.
They're coming to the club for money. You know,
Yeah.
there's no. This is an exchange. It's
Yeah.
exchange. I mean, he has all these.
There was another part in one of those articles where he's like, "Oh yeah, they should crack down on the child trafficking, but how can you do that without infringing on the rights of free individuals?"
Right.
Like, what about the rights of the
Sure.
kids,
Yeah.
guy? Come on, they're
Okay.
free individuals too, right? So,
I know it's crazy. Sean McCann, Wake the Dead. Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
all right, God bless you.